All right, man. I was going through Be Real's bio. It is insane in the membrane, everyone. I mean, some of the highlights. Well, you guys all know Cypress Hill, but and he was on Loveline for 13 appearances, by the way.
Oh, how about that?
While I was there.
Why is that?
I don't know. They're tied. They're tied with the band 311.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to go two things. I'm going to go local. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go kind of friends of the show. Mm-hmm. And, we're just like...
Nice guys.
Nice guys. Come on in. I mean, that's...
They never took you to Poo Poo Town or Poo Poo City.
No, but Be Real did give me a big bag of weed once in the parking lot after the show.
Sure was Be Real?
That's the neighborly thing to do.
Yeah, when I... No, you're right. Pat Boone did that when he came in.
I have to tell the question.
I always transpose those two.
Sure.
Back when I used to smoke weed, it was always hard to find weed. We would do something that nobody ever does anymore in the pots amongst the weed heads. And although Dawson probably had a few bouts of this.
I'm curious.
I would love, because, and now pot is just ubiquitous and it's powerful and it's just everywhere. But there are a few things we used to have to do. You used to have to separate your weed, get Dark Side of the Moon. Was that a double record? I think what
The Wall.
The Wall.
The Wall was a double record.
The Wall.
Dark Side was just a single album. Yeah.
All right. That wasn't an insane thought.
It's insane in the membrane.
Very well could have been.
You had to separate the seed and the shake.
You had to get shaken. You had to do that. But the behavior that no pot smoker engages in anymore that we had to do back in the day, scrape for resins.
Oh, my God.
Dawson, you must have scraped for resins in your day.
There are two reasons why you scrape for resin. One, the most important, is you're out of weed.
Yes.
So you're going to smoke the resin.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
But the second one is you had to clean your shitty aluminum pipe.
And how many of our parents' home faucets no longer have screens in them? My mom doesn't. She doesn't even know it.
Oh, because
no aerator because
you
you were
had to
using
put
it
it
on
over
your
the
bowl.
pipe. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we moved into a brand new house when I was 14, and
Take those
all of
right
a
out.
sudden the bathroom sink just doesn't work ananymore. I don't know what happened,
I should
Dad.
probably tell her.
And what happened to her Lubriderm? She bought the big Costco 2-gallon
Family size.
squeeze top chub pack.
Next thing you know.
and now it's gone.
Nowhere to be found.
Yeah, those are the two things you should be looking at. What happened to the lube and what happened to the aerator? Yeah, I should have thought of that when I was trying to smoke pot out of my dad's trumpet mouthpiece back in the day.
Perfect.
But we used to have to scrape for resins. Someone you knew had weed, but it was a conversation. Was he out? Did he have it? You're going to meet him at the park. Then I stopped smoking weed, and everyone just handed me bags of weed.
Yes.
The second I announced in my head, I'm not smoking weed anymore, bang, boom, edibles everywhere on the road, just everyone just handing me stuff. So Be Real handed me a big bag of weed.
Good.
And it was so, the weed is good when you can smell the weed without burning the weed. When it's
Through the
just
bag.
taken up, it's engulfed the inside of the car and no match has been struck.
Yeah. Also, can I tell you, I don't think I've ever mentioned this, and I swear it's true, even though it doesn't sound like it. We used to have to go down to some seedy neighborhood in Kansas City in high school, allegedly, to this guy who called himself Doc. And I never found out his real name, but he was older than us. He was like some dropout, and he was in his 20s. And you have to buy it from Doc, and then, of course, you have to hang out at Doc's house and give him some. So he had the full velvet, dark light velvet posters everywhere.
Yeah.
And, we'd put on, whatever music. And then you had to smoke your first bowl with Doc or he wouldn't let you leave.
I don't know, my mind just jumped here, but it was also so easy to have a cool pad. Like, when I was young, all you needed was like a futon on the floor and something you stole from a liquor store. Like, hey, it's the Budweiser man cardboard cutout. And that would just be in the corner.
Right,
and it was like, that dude's got a killer pad. It's like, he does, or he stole something from a dumpster at a 7-Eleven.
Road signs. If you had
Right.
road sign, a one-way, no left turn, you were living large.
He has his own Spuds McKenzie.
So Be Real's mom escaped from Cuba in 1968.
On the way you would assume she escaped. I think by raft.
On a raft, got picked up by like a fishing boat or something like that. Was a political prisoner, was in prison, but had an uncle who worked as like a prison guard and got her out. Real shit. Dad was involved with something, and it got him shot like 12 times. The dad did. I'm just going off of memory now. Then they caught the guy. Well, Kaylin has all the nuts
on
and
the bio
bolts.
says dad was secretive and was shot 12 times.
Yeah.
Leaves a lot to the imagination.
Yeah, I was going to say the bio's secretive.
Also, one or the other, because it's hard to keep a lid on being shot 12 times.
Indeed.
But the guy, the dad, Be Real's dad, survived, but the guy who shot him after he got out of prison, I guess, had a party and had a heart attack and died. Just kind of poetic justice.
All's well that ends well.
Be Real was shot. Everyone was shot. It's a very it's a fascinating story. So we'll get into that with him as well. I was watching TV today, and one of my favorite doctors popped up. Now we're living
the doc who gave Gina her weed.
Different doc. We're living in the age of Fauci, but I like Dr. Baden.
Dr.
I
Baden.
don't think I know. Oh, yeah, the name, of course, sounds familiar.
He's the forensic guy. He's the autopsy guy.
Okay.
I was
sure.
like, I haven't seen Baden in a while. And he was doing the whole process with the young blonde woman whose body was
Gabrielle
found
Petito.
and getting into all the nuts and the bolts of that. But I thought to myself, I'm not that interested in this story, but I am interested in a story that Dr. Baden told me about 20 years ago when he was on Autopsy.
Okay.
A very fascinating HBO show from back in the day. And it's one that's always stuck with me. So
When you say told you, you mean you watched it while drinking whiskey.
He thinks the TV's talking to him.
it's much...
He looked right at me.
Look, you guys go through life how you want to go through life, but I feel like, when USC scores, you say we scored. That's right.
You're 100%
You're not
right.
on the squad, but it feels
right.
better.
Fuck
We
yeah.
stumbled upon a dead body.
That's right.
Baden spoke to me.
Right.
And here's a story he shared. Chris, do you have
Yeah,
that?
so he was talking. They were talking on the show Autopsy about Count Karl von Kosel, a German radiology technologist who then went over to Key West to help out with the tuberculosis patients
What's his
in
name?
1930. Count Karl von Kosel. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, he got a patient named Elena Milagro, Cuban American. And she was super hot. Fell in love with her and was trying to help her. And while he was helping her, would shower her with gifts and profess his love to her. She died anyway. And then 2 years after her death, he goes and digs up her body.
Oh boy.
Takes it home and stores the body at his house. And he's seen dancing with it in the window.
Oh, my God.
And then her sister comes up and because she's heard rumors that he's been doing that, identifies the body, calls the authorities, and eventually, and this is kind of, I'll just let Dr. Baden take over the rest of what he did with the body.
At the autopsy, the doctors found that she was basically a decayed corpse. Just fragments of skin, no blood, and bones that were held together by piano wire. She had glass eyes and a wig made out of her own hair that had fallen out over the years as she decayed.
Okay.
Hang on, Gina.
As her skin deteriorated, he would replace it with oiled silk and wax.
Wow.
He used perfume to cover up the odor of the decomposition process.
Good to know.
As the pathologist continued the autopsy, they found that he had inserted a vaginal tube inside of the body
Where?
so that sexual intercourse could be performed.
Fucking A.
But you like Baden, he doesn't break.
He's a complicated guy.
He's not like one of these SNL cast members who
No.
starts busting off halfway into the bit.
It's not Jimmy Fallon.
He's just keeping it straight, talking to me through the TV set, talking about the silk vaginal tube that was installed. Yes.
Yeah, and
That's
Count was
unfortunate.
he was found mentally competent to stand trial,
Good.
but the case was eventually dropped and released due to statute of limitations.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
I do believe at some point they confiscated the remains.
I'd like to think so.
And they reburied the remains.
Well, first they put it on display for a little bit, and
Show some
thousands of
respect.
people would come to see these remains because they were famous now. And then they buried it.
What year is this?
Well, she died in 1930, so
okay,
like
go ahead.
33-ish. Mm-hmm. So they put her remains on
Anyone who
display.
thinks weirdos are new,
Right.
Yeah, this,
open a history
we got a
book.
benchmark.
Yeah.
And then they buried her in a secret location, so he would never be able to dig her up again.
Oh, I thought he went for round 2. But
Well, so there are rumors that he did find it, and
Yeah.
when he died with a new body, like in the arms of a new body. But there's a lot of mixed reports about that.
you got to go for cremation.
He's got a type.
No greater argument for the Neptune Society.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Yeah.
should really be
Yeah.
putting this on their brochure.
Dislikes heartbeats.
Do you want this potentially to
Yeah,
happen to a loved one?
No.
At this point, what's the argument against cremation? Like your body's just gonna rot. What kind of debt? What kind of
Brian,
honor is that?
I feel like Jews have an argument against
What
it.
is it?
Really?
Well, it's just against the religion.
No, you
No,
can't cremate bodies
They're
because
talking about the ovens and Hitler. and
it's a reference to the Holocaust.
Serious question. I'm ignorant on this. Is that a result of the Holocaust,
I think
or is
so.
that a religious tenet of Judaism?
It would make sense that it was religious since you're not supposed to have your body desecrated in any way, aka ear pierces and nose jobs and tattoos. But I think the publicness movement came out of the Holocaust.
Okay.
Or it pre-existed and this movement, and Hitler knew about
Said,
it.
wait a second.
That's
and
not-
thought, you want to be super evil or just evil?
That's
Right.
not out of the question.
That's true.
I'm being serious.
Well, you can look that one up. I don't know where
Take your
the
safe search off.
Holocaust and the cremation, everything came about. But I got to say, if I was one of the cops that happened onto the scene and found the body, all held together with piano wire and a wig made of her
Vaginal
own
tubing.
hair and vaginal tubing, I'd be upset, but somewhat impressed. This guy's ambitious. You know what I mean?
and industrious.
Got a Rube Goldberg type
This is the
over
kind
here.
of guy you want painting your house. He's not going to be one of those guys that just goes right by the light switch cover. He's going to pop it
Yes.
off,
Yep.
paint behind it, and then replace it. And he'll probably get the screws facing the slots going the right direction.
Thorough attention to detail.
Yeah. So
Ingenious.
now it's sad that I have to sit home and see Dr. Baden today and go, oh, yeah, I remember that guy.
Remember what he did?
I remember
What
the
did you say
story.
when he told you that?
I was shocked and appalled, but I just maybe we need to hear the last 20 seconds
I don't
again if we
think we
can.
do.
I like the idea. There's two things I like. I like the idea that he didn't crack, and I also like the idea that halfway into this, Gina thought she was at her saturation point, but you didn't know.
Didn't know what was
You
coming.
didn't know we could get deeper
I know the
It stepped
count was
up.
coming.
It stepped
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
than this. All right, we'll see if we can find just the last 20.
He used perfume to cover up the odor of the decomposition process. As the pathologists continued the autopsy, they found that he had inserted a vaginal tube inside of the body so that sexual intercourse could be performed.
Is it an autopsy at that point?
All right. Oh, God.
Jesus
What
Christ.
a job. And then what about Dr. Baden? You want to have a beer with that guy? Do we appreciate him?
Yeah, I appreciate
Sure.
it.
But then what got him into that? What drove him? Does he have some dark secrets?
I wouldn't want him to be a family member because while I'm grieving over the loss of someone, he would give me the play-by-play.
I find the guys like that, coroners, even military guys that can compartmentalize really well when they're talking about horrific things they've seen. We see it all the time in hobo power. There's oh yeah, and this happened. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm a teacher.
And I think morticians get a bad rap. I mean, somebody's got to do the job.
Yeah, I agreed.
Well, when they were covering the story, the public mood was generally sympathetic to him, who everyone viewed as an eccentric romantic.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Charming.
Again,
A different time.
can't judge. All right, Keith, speaking of sad stories, 42, Oregon.
Yeah. Hey, Ace, Gina, Bald, how you guys doing?
Yeah, So I'm reading your question up on the screen. We were talking about fentanyl, and we're trying to figure out how it worked and what happened. And I'm reading here that your son overdosed a year ago, so we're sad to hear that. But tell us what you know.
So what I know is that he took a pill that thought Percocet, and ended up being, I found him on Sunday morning, October 4th, and he had a friend who died of the same thing about the February before. It was just kind of rampant in our area. And and so after this, Ben Westhoff has a book. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. No. It's called Fentanyl Inc. He's done quite a bit of research into fentanyl, and it's legally manufactured in China and then brought into Mexico, and that's kind of how it comes into the United States, is that it's being legally manufactured there. And whenever it becomes illegal, they change a few things in it, and, in the compounds, because it's something that they make in a lab. It's not something that you grow. And so, that's the reason why. And because of his perception of it is because of the crackdown on LSD, cocaine, things like that, is that people are going to continue manufacturing this stuff, and they're just going to find a way to bring it in. And fentanyl is the easiest way to do it now. And so almost everything is getting cut with this stuff. But that's go ahead.
Well, a couple things. So I've spoken to experts who say that not only is China bringing it in, but they're setting it up in Mexico, the labs. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Also, think about China. Now, China, that's not a place where you can sort of let your freak flag fly. Like
no sissy boys on TV anymore.
You don't get to do stuff that they don't want you to do. So if there's a fentanyl lab and China's aware of it, then if they wanted to shut it down, then maybe they could, or surely they could. Is this part of China's sort of 100-year prospect? China's thing is like, well, we'll take over the world, but we're not going to, we'll slow boat it, but we're taking over the world. Isn't it nice for China that basically the country that's sort of standing in between them and their wish to take over the world is either beaked up on fentanyl or basically having a race argument, they have to see us just arguing about race, and then with an open border and ODing on fentanyl. Do you think this is part of their sort of grander plan? It's a lot easier than, bombers and rockets.
Yeah, probably so. The thing is that the U.S. is so, one of the things he talks about in his book is that there is companies that make test strips for this stuff. That you can get, Dance Safe is the name of it, and you can purchase stuff to test your drugs to make sure that they don't have fentanyl in them. I'm sure that China is happy to make money. The understanding that I have is that they don't have a fentanyl problem, so they're not worried about what's being shipped out. They're making money off of it. They know there's a problem over here, but that's not any of their concern. Probably along those.
Well,
probably along the same lines of what you're saying.
Well, they probably don't have a problem with it because if you're caught with more than a gram of fentanyl, you're executed. So that's a way to keep a lid on the population and their fentanyl use.
Yeah, and it's competitive pricing. I'm looking at it now on dancesafe.org. Fentanyl test strips, a box of 100 is $150.
Well, obviously, the problem is the population that would be responsible enough to go get the test kit is not the population that's buying drugs on the street. Sure. So sadly, it's probably more for the paramedics keeping their rig.
Yeah, that was one of the things that we were finding out after my son passed, was that these kids are going to parties and basically just someone has a handful of pills and everyone's just taking a pill out of it. No one's checking. No one. They're 18-year-olds. And they're not really interested in finding out necessarily what that is. They're just looking to get altered.
Was your son, did he have a long-standing problem, or was he just the guy who showed up at a party, sort of like, well, we just heard that story out of Santa Monica or Venice. They had a house party and 3 comedians died and one overdosed. I think she lived. Was he just sort of wrong place at the wrong time, or was this an ongoing thing?
So one of the confusing things about it is, and one of the things that his friends didn't believe that this is what happened was he had come to us and talked to us about taking pills, like that he and some of his friends had been doing this, but he had seen he had a friend die from an overdose, and he had a friend who overdosed but came back from it, and he was just absolutely done with it. Now, he liked to party. Like, he liked to go out with his friends, bonfire, drink. We could not get him to stop smoking weed. Like, he liked to smoke. And I told him, I said, I think that it's really bad for you to make these decisions, but at the end of the day, alcohol and weed is just going to make you retarded. It's not going to kill you. I want you to stay away from the pills. And so he had talked to us about it. And so the fact that he chose because of some sort of, I don't know if it was, I know he suffered from depression. I don't know what happened at that moment that he decided to take something that he'd gotten. There's no indication that he purchased it. The cops went all the way through his phone. The lady who sold it was arrested. But there was no indication that he was out buying this stuff or seeking it out. He was getting like vape oils and buying weed from her.
Did he take just one pill?
Yeah, he had some others on him. And when the police officer showed up, because I was performing CPR, he told me not to give him mouth-to-mouth anymore, because he said if there's any residue in his mouth, you could overdose from it. Like, oh my God. Any residue, which was shocking to me. That it just takes that little bit. And that's one of the things that you find is that heroin addicts actually, that they say in the book, is that heroin addicts actually flock to these overdoses because it's no more maintaining. They're actually getting that feeling that they used to get, but their bodies have built up such a tolerance that it doesn't actually kill them. And we know a story of some people who told us after this, a guy and his girlfriend split a pill in half and took it, and she died and he didn't, and then he ended up committing suicide. But it just doesn't take very much, especially if your body's not used to it.
Yeah, it'd be nice if that was something we focused a little more on, like China and fentanyl. We're so into, they're using slave labor and producing Nike tennis shoes and stuff like that, which good thing to get to, but people aren't ODing left and right on Nike tennis shoes. So I'm sorry for your loss, Keith. I appreciate that calling and sharing your story with us.
And Keith, I promise that somebody listening either is themselves just trying to like party every once in a while, or their kid is trying to party every once in a while. And I truly believe you have saved lives by calling us.
No, I hope so. I want people to be aware that that it doesn't take anything. It's one thing. The thing is that I even talked with some doctor friends of mine, and I said when I was in high school, I took some Vicodin out of my parents' pill bottle, when we were hanging out and partying and stuff like that. But this is totally different. It's not that,
not regulated.
It's not regulated in any way. And it's just, the thing is that it only takes once, and then lives are changed forever just because someone has no idea what they're taking.
Thanks, Keith. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Take care.
Thank you.
Sad, yeah. Well, now we're there.
Jesus.
It's you're hearing about. It's weird because we're hearing about this guy died and that guy died and those people died, but we're not really getting the full fentanyl story, which would be nice. All right, happier calls and news. Alex from 46 from Maryland. Alex.
Hey.
Hi, guy.
How's it going?
Good.
Ace Man, bald.
Yeah, we got off to a depressing start
Gina.
with Dr. Baden and fentanyl, but
What you got?
You bring us back on track.
Back to the light. So as I said to the call screener, like Dr. Drew, I describe myself as a man of passion, but I kind of find that tiresome after so many years, and I'm kind of hoping, like, is that going to wane? Should I have,
sometimes
like,
I do.
remaining kid in the house, like, kicked me square in the nuts a couple of times?
Oh, boy.
I don't know.
It's just so exhausting to
Drew,
go for a
let's
run.
see if I
We'll
can
find out.
if I can talk to Drew. Drew, is it in fact true that you're still a man of passion?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that didn't sound very passionate, but as long as that's affirmative, right?
Right.
All right. So it is in fact true you're a man of passion.
Right.
Okay. So, and I know Dr. Drew engages pretty frequently with his wife sexually, not because he tells me, but because
sometimes I do.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what.
Yeah, you do,
He admits
because
it.
she will tell you.
Right.
If you go out to dinner with them, she will tell you that. Which I don't know. Maybe I'm getting old, but that's between you and Drew and his nutsack.
Crazy.
Yeah.
A little old-fashioned.
He was also telling me, I think he was telling us the time he was driving home and couldn't wait till he got home.
Oh, Roadhead?
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, sounds crazy.
Yeah, bedhead's a different thing, but
Yeah.
roadhead is its own. Yeah?
Yeah.
Drew, yeah?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Affirmative?
Yeah.
Positive?
Yeah.
Thumbs up?
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we kind of got to the bottom of that one.
Hope that helped.
Hey, Alex?
Yeah.
Yeah, so your passion is not waning.
It is not.
It's
and
waxing.
I can't go for a simple run,
Without raping?
women running around.
What does that mean?
Yeah. It's just not actual raping, just the dusting of thought, impure thoughts. Let's say that. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
Difficult to go to a social activity, concert.
Oh my.
You sort of make eye contact with women and stuff. It's just a frustrating phenomenon.
Is this more so than when you were younger?
I know it's been pretty constant. That's why it's
good
like,
for you.
when does it frickin' stop, man?
Well,
And that's why I thought, maybe I could just get one of my kids to just kick me a few times in the nuts. Something that's just gonna give me some downtime.
Right.
Do you ever jog with your wife?
Yeah, we jog together.
How now? So here's an interesting thing. Drew is an exquisite man of passion, but he's laser focused on his wife's canal, which you're going to have replaced with silk tubing,
vaginal tubing,
soon because of the wear and the tear.
Right.
But a lot of guys, unfortunately, have this, and it's shotgun.
Oh, sure. Scatter shot.
That's right.
Buckshot.
It can go a lot of different directions.
Yeah.
Are you laser focused on your wife, or is this a universal thing?
No, I'm laser focused on my wife, but we've been married for 27 years, and let's just say it's not a mutual laser focusing situation.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
You get my drift.
I get it.
Yeah.
What do you think schedule wise? Like, I could say you're good for 5 days a week. What do you think she's good for?
We do it.
Gina's getting married,
I
so
definitely could tell you. We have what I like to refer to because it's right on the bedstand, the sex calendar, where we record the amount of times that it happens because otherwise I get kind of whiny.
Oh my God.
And so it's so hot, right?
I had a man. I'll leave his name out, but I had a man of passion over the weekend explain to me that for Valentine's Day, he gets like X amount of REM passes.
What? I think I know what you mean by that.
Which is my gift for you from a Valentine's Day perspective is 5 times this year as the wife, you may wake me up.
Oh,
Or
thank
not.
God. Okay, good. Thank God
That's what
that
I
important
figured that
crucial
meant.
step is in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that is not a two-way street.
No.
Like for Gina, I'd be like, you know what your gift is this year?
What?
You get to blow me up to 5 times while I'm asleep.
What about the tennis bracelet I asked for?
I'll put it around my hog.
Wait, I'm
See
sorry.
if you can suck it off.
Wait, this is your gift to me?
For Valentine's Day.
Right.
To show how much I love you.
Well, I figured I was going to give you something like that. That's
All
certainly
right,
not
I'm going to go
present for
take
me.
a nap. Wake me up with your mouth.
I'm sorry. I just want to make sure.
Unless you don't want to burn one.
I just
You
want to
got a
make sure.
3-day weekend coming up.
That's a good point. Let's just be clear. This is a present for me.
Oh, you know what? You're right. Let's make it 10 times a year.
Oh boy.
I'm really going to up
Feeling
the. I'm
generous.
going to up the ante. What I start with 5?
Yeah.
Let's make it. I'll go 10. Let's go double digits.
That's okay.
What'd you get me?
I got you a new bandsaw because that's what you said you wanted.
Oh, sweet.
And what did I get again?
You got what I call a REM pass. I mean, you can wake me up.
I get to wake you up giving you oral.
Right. What'd I say? 10 times.
I thought
Up
it
to
was
10 times this calendar year. But the good news is.
Do they roll over?
Well, they're not like vacation days in a federal job. But I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
Next year for Valentine's,
Yeah.
I'll get you the same gift, and then you'll restart with a fresh deck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, I feel like this is more of a present for you. So you got 2 presents. Well, actually, you got 11
I got the
presents.
bandsaw.
Yeah, plus 10 blowjobs. So
Up to 10.
right. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm just failing to see what my gift is.
I'm letting you blow me up to 10,
But no more than.
times up to 10 times a year, but you may wake me up and do this. This is the rub. I shall be asleep.
I see. So just so I'm clear, when you're dozing off, if I am just so filled with that exquisite passion that you speak of that I can't do anything until I make sure you have had a full release into my mouth, that is my gift. Your gift to me.
I'll tell you what. I'm feeling generous. I'm going to throw in
please don't.
3 anals. Okay?
Wait, do I get to peg you 3 times?
So foolish. This is why I said to the jeweler, the tennis bracelet will never do. She's far too complex for
Really
this.
wanted
You know
the
what I mean?
tennis bracelet.
That's the kind of thing I'd get my girlfriend.
Excuse me?
If I had a girlfriend. Oh, by the way, she's only got 5.
I don't like where this is going.
Look, first off,
No.
you're the queen bee. 10 blowjobs, randos, when I'm asleep, 3 anal. Now, Becky
When
only
I'm
got...
asleep?
No, when I'm asleep.
I see.
Sorry. Becky gets 5 blowjobs
Who the
and only
fuck
1
is
rim job.
Becky?
What?
Who's Becky and who's rimming her?
Well, I gave her the tennis bracelet.
What? You gave her my tennis bracelet?
Where's the bandsaw? Is that in the garage?
I will bring it to you forthwith. Cut your balls off.
And scene. Thank you.
So that would go.
Thank you for inspiring that.
Alex,
young
that help?
Yeah.
Feel better?
We're up against it, but there is a question for Bryan about USC head coaching jobs.
Burning
I don't
question.
want to leave him out of the mix. Who you look at? Did they hire a new head
No,
coach?
they fired their coach Clay Helton,
Which everyone was happy about.
after after game 2. Everyone was happy about it, weirdly enough. It took Adam, I know you like to fancy yourself a crystal brain. I like to think once in a while I have these thoughts. I'm over here, and I'm like, everyone's like, what are you doing over there? I'm like, you'll all be over here soon. You'll
That's
all
right.
be over here soon. Kaylin, put up the tweet that you found. Yes, that's 2017 after Clay Helton took over as mid-season 2015. Quote, all my USC friends laughed at me when I told them early on that Clay Helton was not a great coach. That's many years ago. He's been the coach ever since. This fucking buffoon has been running this prestigious program into the ground. I like to think I know a little bit about football. I can recognize good coaching, a well-coached team, and I'm like, this guy's an idiot. This guy's a buffoon. He's a nice guy. By all accounts, he's a class act. Just a bad coach. In over his head.
How does one get the nod for such a prestigious job?
Here's what happened. It was a tragic series of events. He took over in 2015, I think, when Sarkisian was let go for the drinking episodes.
Oh, I remember that.
And I think he took over in 2015, won like 4 out of 5 or something like that, finished the season hot. Players loved him. Players coach, right? He was assistant coach. Now the players love him. And the administration at USC was not strong-willed at that point. They're like, well, the players love him. Let's give him a 7-year contract. And we've been suffering ever since.
Well, thank God he's gone.
I don't care who they hired. I'm like a battered wife at this point. I just want someone to love me. I just want someone competent who can lead a program and recruit. Like I'll take anyone who's up to the task.
I feel bad for you and your battered wife's status. I'm going to throw 4 blowjobs at you.
All right. See, things are looking up.
You don't get the blowjobs.
Yeah. And even a reach around because I'm feeling generous.
All right. So first off, I just want to remind everybody, if anyone wants to tweet to Adam, follow him at Adam Carolla. And while I'm here, also subscribe to his YouTube page, youtube.com/Adam Carolla. He's posting a lot of new content on there, too. So this first tweet, this is from at Chuck Mose 2. He said, "You're right again, Adam. Another painfully obvious study shows that being around a farm, animal crap, and dirt as a kid makes you healthier. Toss the hand sanitizer." And Dawson has the article.
Yeah, I have many thoughts about this because today I had a long talk with Dr. Drew about cats and dogs and houses and haves and have-nots. That'll dovetail into this. But I had a funny little thought with Sonny and Phil today. But go ahead, Dawson.
Children raised in a rural environment surrounded by animals and bacteria-laden dust grow up to have more stress-resilient immune systems and might be at lower risk of mental illness than pet-free city dwellers, according to new research published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. The study, co-authored by researchers from Germany and the University of Colorado Boulder, adds to mounting evidence supporting the hygiene hypothesis, which posits that overly sterile environments can breed health problems.
It is, we get it. We've talked about this a lot. It's that be careful what you ask for, no free lunches in nature. Everyone's so busy trying to protect everyone from everything that they're actually doing more damage. Sort of bleeds into like school lockdowns or people doing home, Zoom schooling and then suicides and depression and stuff. Like you really have to realize that there's rarely just a move that just lives in a vacuum. You cannot hermetically seal your kid in an apartment in Manhattan and bathe them in Purell and not have a part 2 that nature will figure out a way to represent. But I was thinking about dogs because this morning Phil went in the swimming pool early and then he gets out and then he just lays by Sonny's door sopping wet, and then at some point I let him into Sonny's room, and then Sonny wakes up because he's in bed and he's like, "Phil, see," and then there's the oh no when he finds out he went in the pool. Because Phil's 115 pounds, and when he gets sopping wet, it takes him days to dry. But I said, "Sonny's coming in," and then Phil's like, "I need up on the bed," and Sonny's like, "No, does he have to be on the bed?" It's like, that's where he sleeps. And big wet Phil just climbed up onto the bed and sidled right up to Sonny. And I thought, good. That was actually before I actually even read this. So also, awakening. I was thinking, it makes sense. We've talked about the outdoor dog versus the indoor dog, but I also when I was talking to Drew over the weekend, I sort of realized that you don't really need to get that deep into people's childhoods, which is, did you have a good childhood or didn't you? Because you can just go, did you have a dog? Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes there's sidebar answers like, my mom was allergic to dogs. All right, you're off. You're out of the discussion. Right. Or my dad was a Manhattan attorney and we lived in a penthouse and they wouldn't allow any. But if you lived in a home, did you have a dog? And if the answer is no, because every kid universally wants a dog.
Of course.
Every 9-year-old on the planet wants a dog. All they have to do, well, first off, half the TV shows they're watching at the time is someone and their pet. The other one is they then go to their friend's house and their friend has a dog and they love playing with it. Anyway, if you didn't have a dog, we don't need to continue with the questioning. Like, how often did you go snow skiing? Did your family own a boat? Did they own a yacht? Did you water ski? Right. Did you have a half-court basketball hoop in your backyard? The dog is the whatever. And it was funny because I was talking to Drew. I said, well, I had a cat. Mm-hmm. The cat goes before dog. But if you got a cat and cats maintain themselves. That's why, and ours just showed up at the door. So it didn't cost anything, and they're self-sufficient. So
It's barely a pet.
there's no effort involved with having a cat from the Carolla standpoint, and the thing just showed up.
I was going to say just vacuuming the cat hair, but you guys didn't have a vacuum. Right?
No, we did not.
Or anything to get cat hair on.
Right. That's a good point. So, again, use that dog as a kind of a marker.
Yeah.
A
gateway
yardstick.
happiness.
Yeah, because universally, every kid wants a dog. At some point, they're going to say, can we have a dog? And the parents that say no, who live in a house and never get their kid a dog, also said no to mini bikes and ponies and jet skis and everything that came after. I don't know, Gina, what was your dog status growing up?
We were a cat family. I was deathly allergic. Nobody gave a shit. So I grew up very, very sick my whole life, but I loved cats and I don't care. So we have 3 and they were my babies. But also, there's been a lot of hot Yorkie talk at the house, and I'm the holdout. Do I have to get a fucking Yorkie because the kid wants a Yorkie?
Why a Yorkie?
Or a French bulldog, but I'm not a fan. I like fluffy
Frenchies
things.
are good dogs.
I like fluffy dogs. Like, I want, because I like cats. And, I don't want, I love Phil, but that, spiky dog hair, it's not my vibe.
Yeah, I don't. The thing about kids is they get hard into stuff. Like, Natalia wanted me to build her a lazy river.
Holy shit.
What happened with that?
Yeah.
That's major construction. That's fucking Bellagio.
Yeah, and what you have to do is you have to weather the storm because they burn hard and bright.
Yes.
For a period of time, and then they move on.
Yes, because there was hamster talk, and I've had a ham. I hate hamsters. They're cute, they're adorable, they're nocturnal, and they're on that fucking wheel all night. And who's going to end up cleaning after the hamster? So I'm the asshole, and I may rethink it, but we'll see.
Would you have a dog?
I had no dog. My younger brother, Adam, and I begged our dad for a dog. And of course, he came back with the standard dad answer, which is, I'm going to end up taking care of it. And it's like, well, no, but okay. And then we never had a dog. We both have dogs now. Funny enough, Christy wanted a dog when she was younger and got a boxer. Her parents got the family a boxer. It lasted 2 days.
What?
Christy's dad's a good grandpa and a mellow dude, but back in the day, he was prone to
front loading.
He was prone to outbursts, famously prone to outbursts. I think on day 1 or 2, he threw the dog out of the house. Literally threw it out the back door.
Was the house moving?
No, the house not moving. The back door was open. Threw the dog on the lawn, and the next day the dog was gone. I never quite got an answer why.
That's horrible.
That's good for...
These are people who named their kids Christy and Chris.
Sure.
I feel like that's good for, we should assign these numbers, but that's good for 4.5 days of therapy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Brother commits suicide. Yeah. That's good for 9 months of therapy, but threw the 2-day-old boxer out the back door.
Not even a week.
That's still some therapy must be dedicated to
She
that
still tells
subject.
me about the memory of watching the dad drive away with the dog in the trunk and then return the dog. Supposedly, hopefully.
And he didn't even lie to her about the farm, the dog.
No, 2 days, we can't do this.
Well, at least he squeezed the trigger, but yeah.
So to speak.
Both times.
Yeah, I got to say, this conceit that dads would do, my dad never got to the point. My dad was like a serial killer versus a guy who commits vehicular manslaughter. The vehicular manslaughter guy's got a story for the cops. It was a Christmas party and it was raining outside. The
guy came out of nowhere.
The elderly guy was wearing a black hoodie and the street light was out.
Right.
My dad was just like, I kill because I like the sight of blood. You know what I mean? You're not getting a dog. No explanation. Not like, I'm going to end up, because I'm going to end up is now negotiation where you go, how about if I promise that I'll clean up all the poop and feed them all the kibble and if I stop doing that, you can take. My dad didn't even go down that road. His thing was like, no answer.
Wow.
No answer. So, but I also like the conceit, that the dad can't do anything, I'm going to have to be the one who's going to have to buy the kibble. Okay.
And
That's
$12 later.
Dads do.
Yeah.
Guess who buys all the kibble at the Carolla house? Not my dad. This dad. Yes, there's stuff you do.
Yep.
because you're the dad.
Yeah.
You have a dog.
You have a dog.
Yeah.
You have a job and a dog. And yes, you may refill the water bowl from time to time. Yeah, I just love this. Like, the second I enter the home, I must be carried to my Barca lounger. I can do no more.
Honey, can we get a bed? Who did this end up making it every morning?
Who's going to set it up? All right. Do you have that rolling memorial one, Chris?
Yeah, so this one was tweeted at you by Mr. Parker WPHS, and he wrote, "And you thought the rolling memorial was depressing before," and he posted this picture.
Which is a picture on the back of a RAV4 or something.
This, yeah.
Oh,
Magnum.
The dog. Rest in peace. With the dates.
Yeah. In loving memory of Magnum.
He made it 10 years.
He made it 10 years plus. Yeah. But depressing.
For certain breeds, that's good.
Yeah, for big dogs like that one.
Who's this really for? You know what I mean? The rolling memorial.
Oh, dude, 2010. That's fucking 11 years ago.
Yeah, it's 10 and a half years old dog.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just doing the math now. Like that. This has been on there for a while.
Well, we don't know the
I see
date
what you're
the
saying.
picture was taken, but I'm guessing it's a recent photo of a Dodge. What is that? A Prowler or goddamn it?
Scion?
No, I'll think it's a Plymouth. Goddamn.
Plymouth.
Yeah, or
that's a PT Cruiser.
PT Cruiser. So already the person has questionable judgment and values to purchase a PT Cruiser. Number one. Number two, I am slightly more bumped about the dog passing than I am about the young gangbanger.
Bumped in the way that you're irritated or you're sympathetic?
I'm irritated. It makes me think. I have to think about your dog.
Yeah.
Your dog died. Everyone has a dog that died. Everyone who had a dog has a dog who's died.
That is true.
Has experienced that. There's no reason to plaster that upon every moving vehicle.
I couldn't agree more. I also, and if this is you and if this is how you grieve, God bless you. But after I had to care for a very elderly animal who was very sick and make the choice to have the person come to the house. I was hysterical. I'm not one that does a lot of Facebook posts and remember all these pictures. I don't want. It's too painful for me. So why am I foisting that on you?
Right.
But people like to do that.
I have an elderly dog, and I've never had a dog die because this is my first dog. I've been mentally preparing myself now for the last couple of years because he's 12 or 13. I'm like, he's got a couple of years left. Best case scenario.
It's time to blow a call into Chrissy's dad.
Drop him off.
Save Tessa the heartache of going to the vet.
I totally understand. I've been trying to mentally prepare myself for the inevitable for the last couple of years.
You know, Nate, who I make all the movies with, between his brother in Montana, who just literally goes full old Yeller with the dog, and Christy's dad, I feel like they would make
cottage industry.
Quite a team.
Quite a team. Quite no sitting for them. You do not want them sitting your dog. What happened?
Assassin team.
I feel like the dog had the sniffles, so we put him down.
No, he was totally fine when we left. In fact, he was wagging his tail. He couldn't wait to play with you. He brought you his favorite toy.
With dog years, maybe he would have made another 21 years, but that's only 3 for us. Mm-hmm.
He wanted to play fetch. He had never had more energy.
He just won blue ribbon in the competition. The agility drills.
There's a funny Nobel Prize jiu-jitsu story that somebody tweeted me that I thought was good. Kind of reminded me of my grandmother and Paul Bryan's grandmother as well.
Yeah, so this is a Kenzaburo Oe. He's a Nobel Prize winner, and his quote is, "As a child, I promised my mother I would win the Nobel Prize in physics. 50 years later, I said to my mother, 'See, I have kept my promise. I won the Nobel Prize.' 'No,' said my mother, 'you promised it would be in physics,' because he was awarded the 94 Literature Prize."
That's good.
Yeah, now hopefully she was kidding, but who knows?
Were your grandmothers kidding about how you were talentless and charmless?
Yeah, charmless.
Doesn't have the charisma.
You're right.
I lacked charisma and
was she kidding?
charm. No,
there you go.
She was not. She was on camera, and she was stating it to the camera for posterity. She knew she wouldn't be around to degrade me emotionally.
For future generations.
So it needed to be captured.
Yeah.
This dude's got range, by the way. The physics Nobel Prize was in his wheelhouse, and he won it for literature.
Yeah.
I know.
Underachiever.
Fucking A.
It also reminded me of a tweet that somebody explained, sent to me about Burt Reynolds' mom, the great Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, so this is at Sean318. He says, I'm watching the I Am Burt Reynolds doc, and his mom says something very Grandma Carolla-esque. Quote, Burt was always popular with the girls in high school, but I could never see why.
Mean.
Was what is that doc on? Because I'm going to watch the shit out of that.
It's on like a Canadian streaming channel. I tried to watch it, and this guy's in Canada, so
there's that whole I Am series, like I Am Chris Farley and I Am. So I would think you might be able to find something like that on A&E. But
good to see you. Be real.
Oh, thank you for having me, man. I was telling my boys back here that we go way back. We even lived close to each other once upon a time, and it was just a matter of time before this happened.
I know, it's great, man. You hang around long enough, you'll see
Right.
everything.
Clinging on to it.
I want to talk about your sort of crazy life and your family's crazy life that I took a deep dive into before the show went on the air today, about your mom and Cuba and your dad and God knows what with your dad. But I also thought about this time you did Loveline and we went out in the parking lot and you gave me a huge bag of weed. Does that sound familiar to you?
Oh, yeah. I remember that. After this, I'm going to get the address to where you're at and send you a bigger bag of weed.
So you grew up out here. I grew up out here. We're about the same age. So we had kind of a lot of similarities, but also very different growing up as well. Your mom fled Cuba. Can we talk about that story?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe she fled Cuba in '68. Because she was in prison at that time because she was with the group that was anti-Castro at the time. And, she was out there doing whatever they were planning to do and got arrested. And she was in there for a year or two. And she had an uncle that worked in the prison. And she didn't really know that uncle, but she knew she had somebody that was family that worked there. She just didn't know who it was. And he approached her and said, hey, listen, you need to get out of here. I'm going to help you get out, but you need to get off the island. So he sort of helped her situate certain things while she was locked up. He put certain shit into place. Excuse me. Sorry about that. He put certain things into place and found her way out. And then once she got out, she was on her own. So, yeah, she had to get out of there, and she got out at 68. And it wasn't easy for her. She was alone. She had to, do all this by herself. And she had an accident while all this was happening, cracked her head, scaling a wall or a fence of some sort. But she's pretty relentless and had a strong will. So she made it to whatever raft that was hiding somewhere and got out into the open ocean, head cracked and drifting for a day before a fishing boat saw her drifting along.
Wow. As a guy, not that I went through the same perils your mom went through, but I recently made a trip to Catalina.
Mm-hmm. So he can identify.
Catalina is 26 miles away from Long Beach. And when you get out in the middle of the ocean, you're in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is 90 miles, I think, Cuba to Florida, which last time I checked is about 3.5 times as far as Catalina. I couldn't imagine getting into a raft and just sort of pushing off in the general direction. Wow. And what that would be like alone.
Well, you think about it, many have done that throughout the last, I don't know how many years. I mean, people have been trying to get off that island for a long time, and they get off whatever way they can. And the only reason they do that is because it's bad over there. Things ain't right, obviously. So they'll do what they can. And, even at risking their own lives, there's been like you look at what was that kid's name, Elian Gonzalez or whatever.
Yeah,
and his mother was food for the sharks. But that she risked it to get him over here for them to let him go back. That was the craziest thing.
So your mom lands in Florida. She must have, I mean, there's a strong Cuban contingent over there. She must have had some support over there. But at some point, she's got to get out to California and meet your dad, right?
Yeah, I think what happened was years earlier, one of my cousins came with another family because Cuba has a lottery, and that's how Sendog and his family got to the U.S. is that Cuba holds a lottery based off of your kids. So if you have a number of kids, they're all put into this lottery thing, and it happens, I don't know, every year or something like that, every couple of years. And my family's neighbor came up on that lottery, but that lady's daughter had passed away, early on. And, the consensus there or the census there, it's not like over here, it's not constantly updated. So you could actually sneak another person onto, that family. So like they brought my cousin to America in that lottery with the neighbor's family. And my aunt sent her because she knew things were going to get bad out there and she wanted her daughter to have a better life. So she sends my cousin with this family, years before. So my mother has a niece out here at that time. They're relatively around they're close to the same age at this point. Her cousin had been out here for a number of years and had adapted, learned English, and, she had moved to California with that family that she came with. And so when my mother made it out here, that was her one contact. And she was in California, and I guess they made arrangements for my mother to come out to California. Now, the thing is, my mother didn't go through Florida. She went through New York because the fishing boat that found her drifting, they didn't go to Miami. They went all the way up to a port in New York for some reason. It was a Greek captain of the boat. And they sort of fronted and acted like he was her wife,
Wow.
So that she could get in.
Wow.
And so, I learned some of this through like some of that ancestry.com and the DNA stuff, the 23andMe, right? So I typed in my mother's information, and when her information came up, it came up with a last name I had never heard before, and it was a Greek last name. It was, and that was it. And I remember hearing the story, of how it, she came out here. And I remember that my mother actually spoke. She knew how to read and write and understand Greek. She couldn't really speak it, but she understood it and could read it and write it and all that stuff. And I used to see these books in the Greek language, just, chilling out there. And I never understood it. But, when I recall some of the story and then seeing that, yeah, that was totally how she got in here. They fronted like this was the captain's wife, and they were coming from off of a trip, and, he got her in and, got her to California to my cousin or, her niece. And that's how she got here, man.
Well, a couple things. First off, there's a lottery to basically, get out of Cuba. Again, as a nation.
Yep.
Can you imagine if there's a lottery to go to Canada from the United States? Like, well, I signed up. I signed my kids up.
Yep.
My neighbors' kids are signed up.
I'm going to sneak someone with us.
At some point, someone should think about, like, what's going on here.
Yes.
That people are so fucking desperate to leave the place you've created that they'll go on inner tubes and shark-infested water and get picked up by Greek fishermen.
And think about this, right? They want you to leave with nothing. Right. So you only leave with what you can take, all your credentials. So like if you were a professor or a physicist or a lawyer or a doctor, they were stripping all that of you and your credentials and your citizenship. And now, you're a traitor because you chose to go somewhere else. So a lot of these guys and a lot of these men and women that came with an education, and they were doctors and lawyers and all the things I mentioned. They couldn't come and get those jobs in the United States because their credentials were invalidated. And, you know, some of them were older. They're not going to go through that whole process to get their license in law or to be a doctor. And it just basically, you know, wiped everything that they had worked for,
you know,
to go somewhere else. And that's how bad it was. People were willing to give that up and just be like, you know what, we're not dealing with this. We're out of here. First lottery ball that pops up, we are out.
Well, speaking of Cuba, first off, I had a good idea, which is if my son becomes a loser and a cab driver, I'm going to tell him to adopt like an Iranian accent and explain that he was a celebrated physician. Right. I was an engineer, physician, and now this. And then all of a sudden you go from, oh, you're the biggest loser ever, to, oh, I have great respect for what you've done.
Your hero.
So I'll work on that with him when we get home. But it struck me that about 6-8 months ago, there was a whole Cuban thing, and they shut down the internet, and we were going to get the internet turned back on in Cuba, and I don't know where the fuck that story went. Do you guys remember that just a few months ago?
Kind of.
I do remember that, along with the like sonar terrorism.
Well, yeah, there's that was a crazy one too. But
that was crazy.
I don't know what we can do to get the internet turned back on to the Cubans. It's also so insane because when Fidel Castro was alive, I was like, my God, you've been 50 years at the helm of this shit, like running a nation for 50. I mean, could you imagine if like Richard Nixon took office in 1972 and he's still in charge? You know what I mean? But then he dies and his brother takes over. Yeah. It's like literally this is never ending.
Yeah, it's a cycle, you know, that keeps repeating itself because it's allowed to. You know, these people haven't really seen like what freedom is and what it is to live an actual life of freedom, right? I mean, sure, we pay for our freedoms and there's a lot of crap we got to put up with for it. But I mean, they've never seen it, right? And it's because they're not allowed to, because if you have any thoughts of, oh, this is what it should be like, that's like contagious, you know, it catches like fire and other people start questioning, like, why don't we have this? Or why aren't we doing this? And why are we so far behind? They don't know how far behind they are. It's like, what's the best analogy? When you take a person like, let's just say a Quaker, right? And they have this one weekend once a year. Yeah, right. that they get to go see what the real world is doing, and some of them don't want to come back.
Right.
You know, they get a taste of that the city life, and they're like, you know what, I want to do this. I ain't going back to that. And you know, if they seen what's happening everywhere else and how far behind they are, they're gonna want more. And you know, that government and they don't have enough to give them. I mean, it's
like North Korea. I'm looking here just at, you know, keywords shutting down internet Cuba. That story was huge in the middle of July with NPR and you know, Wall Street Journal, everywhere else. Not a peep since then.
Yeah, we got a pretty fast cycle around here. So your mom comes out. She ends up in Southern California. Your dad's story, crazier, I think. Maybe, kinda. We're talking about him getting shot 12 times, or essentially, that was an assassination attempt. That wasn't a liquor store robbery gone wrong, right?
No, it wasn't. You know, as a kid, I didn't know what my father was into. I knew that he drove trucks, and I knew that he knew a lot of people in a lot of places. And, you know, I was just sort of oblivious to it at first, you know, and he was involved with some crazy things, obviously. And what happened was he was working with this older gentleman, you know, for a long time. And it was like he was this guy's sort of mentor, or the guy was his mentor, my father's mentor. They had worked together for a long time in trucking and probably some other things. And, you know, other people around them were always trying to stir shit up between them. And I guess one of a mutual acquaintance told the older gentleman, like, hey man, this guy's trying to get over on you. He's doing this and that and the other and blah, blah, blah. And none of it was going on. They just, you know, when a power struggle is happening with some crazy things, you know, and you want to separate two entities that are loyal to each other and create things, you know, this is what happens sometimes.
So is he the guy who shot your dad?
Yeah, the old man actually shot my father. You know, he was Jesus. You know, somebody created this thing between them, and so the story goes is this.
Worst mentorship program ever. By the way, right? Like, all you kids that are complaining, like, I work 40 hours and all I do is get coffee for him. I don't even get paid. Shut your hole. It can go a lot worse than that.
Oh yes,
Sorry, go ahead.
It goes much worse than that, right? So that, you know, they had gone on many runs together in terms of, you know, convoy type things with the trucking and stuff like that. This guy, the older guy, had my older brother's toolbox from a run they had made, and you know, that's what he used to come on in to my father's shop. You know, my father knew there was some sort of tension, and you know, so he was on guard apparently, and the guy came in, said, you know, trying to be like, hey, look, we don't have a problem, we're good. I came to bring you your son's toolbox. You know, I had it from the last run. And these are big ass toolboxes. I mean, these are for semi trucks. Mm-hmm. So they're you've seen the boxes at them. I know you're well educated in this, right? And you know, it's an older guy. He's probably in his 60s, and he's got the toolbox, and he sort of drops it. You know, like it was too heavy for him to carry. And my father was always respectful of this guy. So he's like, no, I got it. I'm going to pick it up. And so when my father went to pick it up, that's when he pulled out the handgun, shot him 6 times, unloaded on him. And my father, he was a heavy set dude. He weighed probably like 275 pounds at the time, at 6 feet. He was kind of wide. And that's probably what saved him. He got up and he hit the guy.
Wow. You hear that, Vinny?
And as he started to run away, the guy had another gun on him. He had a 22 on him. And, you know, he shot him with that 22, you know, another 6 times. And he managed to get away. And the guy that shot my father, he's seen this other guy run in towards one of the other rigs. And he had a shotgun in there, and he knows that guy, and he knows that guy had a shotgun in there. So he shoots at that guy, and, you know, he scares him off of the truck. So that guy runs off. Then he rolls into the office, and he sees another guy at a desk with his back turned. He's like oblivious to what's going on outside, because he's in the back office, and he shoots that guy in the back and paralyzes him for the rest of his life. And then he takes off. While that's happening, my father runs across the street to whatever diner that was right there by their trucking company, because they were by a restaurant or diner of some sort. He runs into that diner and collapses there, all bloodied up and shot up. They call the ambulance, they get him, and then they find the shooter. They got him, and you know, it changed my father's life for the rest. He had to live with a colostomy bag and all that stuff.
How long
but he lived.
How long did he live after that?
Oh, she lived another 20 years. This guy was a tough son
Don
of a
Corleone
bitch.
over there.
He was a tough son of a bitch. I mean, you know, he got shot 12 times, and my father wasn't in great physical shape. You know, like he liked to eat a lot. He didn't drink, but he liked to eat a lot. And so he was heavy set. And that's probably what saved him, you know. But those 22s bouncing around, one hit his spleen, and that's why he had the colostomy bag. But he had a heart attack on the operating table in the middle of that, and lived through that shit. And he was still just as ornery when he came back home.
God bless
Oh
him.
man!
Please tell me he used that on you as a kid. He would be like, "I didn't survive 12 gunshot wounds and a heart attack."
Oh, listen.
For you not to take the trash out.
Listen, when I got shot, when I was gangbanging and I got shot and I was in the hospital for my little one bullet
measly one
that hit me. I got hit by a 22. It ricocheted around in there, or it bounced around in there, punctured my lung, the whole shit. I got hit by a hollow point, so it split in 3 pieces. Anyway, I'm laying in the bed right there. And he goes, so you fucking think you're tough, huh? I already knew what that meant. He didn't even have to say anymore.
Was your dad around long enough to see the success of Cypress Hill?
Yeah, definitely. He saw some of it. And I actually got him high one time, because he had been hearing all this stuff about us being these, cannabis advocates and all pumping the legalization and all that. And, one day he comes to visit my mother, who was staying with me at the time. And he's, hey, what's up with all this weed stuff you've been talking about? Like, what do you mean? He goes, you got any right now? I'm like, yeah. I want to try some. Like, what? So, I got him high for his first time, according to him. And, he loved it. He was like, hey, he calls me the next day. You got any more of that?
For him, it was medicinal.
Yeah.
And, that was a connection I never thought I had with my father, because we just never got along ever.
Adam, it gives me an idea.
Yeah.
and that sort of made a bridge for us right there, smoking that joint with him for the first time.
Did you, so for you, you're gangbanging, your dad's who he is, you're off to a kind of a rough start, the kind of story you hear all the time, wrong side of the tracks, running with the wrong people and all that kind of stuff. How do you get from there to music?
Well, before I started gangbanging, I always had a love for music, and Sendog, myself, and Muggs, and Sendog's brother Mello, with a couple of other folks, we were always as hip hop enthusiasts, trying to rap. So we went to backyard parties and we'd get on the mic and we'd rock the mic and stuff like that. So that was always there. When I started gangbanging, I sort of left all that behind and sort of just had this soldiering mentality. When Sen's brother Mello got in the door with Delicious Vinyl, and Muggs got in the door with 783, they came back for me, and they were like, hey, we got this deal for Mello, and we got this going on with 783. Why don't you come back and help write some of that stuff? Because they knew I was a decent writer. And, at the time I was like, what am I going to do, man? I ain't going to make no money off this rap. Shit, man, what are you talking about? And they're like, man, what do you got to lose? Just come try it. And I'm like, all right, cool. All right. And realistically, I didn't have anything to lose at that point. So I went with them to the studio sessions. I was really green. I had to learn how to write songs because I knew how to write raps, but I had to learn how to write songs. And I had a couple of good guides to help me with that transition. And I wrote some songs for Mello on his first album that, sort of got me back in rhythm to writing, raps and actually turning them into songs and stuff like that. So it put me in a different place. It was like I caught the fever, and slowly but surely, I found myself less on the block gangbanging and more in the studio trying to write.
It must have paid better than whatever else you were up to, right?
No, not at the time.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
We're getting paid jack.
That's a good point.
We're getting paid nothing on the street. I was making money every day, illegally, unfortunately and obviously. But yeah, I had cash in hand every day. So that wasn't necessarily a big problem, but what I was doing, and if I had got caught doing what I was doing, it wasn't going to be a good day for me at all, because, there's the path of a gangbanger is, one of either you're very fortunate and you live through it. And if you're smart, you change your life to something else and you find something and you create a family and just get out of that life, or there is the grave or the jail cell or the wheelchair. And some of, in the wheelchair, that you could be in the prison cell in that wheelchair, or living life or living life in that cell, in that wheelchair free, if you feel me, you know what I mean? So there's only a few pathways for gangbangers, you know what I mean? So for me, it was like, at first I wasn't even thinking about music. I was totally soldiering and buying into that. And when I realized that I could still write and I had the ability to learn how to do more and be more creative with it, that sort of took me out of the mindset like that bullshit on the street isn't all that I can do. I can do more. And this is it right here. So I sort of, little by little, it took me a while to shake it all off, but little by little, I started, being more present in the studio than on the street. And my friends on the street understood that. They never, tried to reel me back in or give me a guilt trip for not being there. They were always supportive, like, hey, go do that.
You don't hear that very often.
Go do that. That's better than this. And, that I was fortunate in that way. I was blessed.
So what year was Cypress Hill? Did you guys form in 88?
Yeah, well, Sen and I have known each other since 1984, and we met Muggs in, I think, 85 or 86. And then, we start taking it serious in maybe 87. No, not 87, probably 89, and maybe through 88 to, 91 when we got signed. That's when we really started, focusing in and trying to make something. It took us like 3-4 years before we had anything that was, worth putting our name on. But then, we just sort of heard not too long ago when our 30-year anniversary came up. Just before that, we were filming our documentary that's coming out next year. And Muggs broke out some of those old demos, and my voice was completely different at the time. It was before I figured out how to pitch my voice up and make it a little bit different so it could cut through. And, the demos weren't bad. Even with my different tone, I guess we were just striving for more. So what we were doing at that time wasn't enough, but hearing it back, it wasn't bad. You could hear the foundations of where we were we would eventually go. And it was just a trip to see that. Because, you forget about those songs. Those songs are far behind you, especially when they're not on the album. But it took 3 to 4 years to actually make the first album. And we put a lot into that, a lot of focus, a lot of effort. We shut everybody that was negative to us out, didn't allow them to be around. No people that were going to try to second guess us. We just hunkered down, us three in the studio, and focused in. And our friends understood that. They allowed us that room to be creative and do what we were going to do.
Bryan, do you have a question?
I did. I've always wondered this. Speaking of the early days, you guys came up in those early days of like when gangster rap, right, was making a big like push to the mainstream. You actually lived that life. Could you? I always imagined there were guys who lived that life and rapped about it, and some guys who maybe, as we say, were fronting. Or could you tell who was maybe not the real deal and who was the real deal?
It's just like movies. There's great actors, so you just don't know until someone calls someone out on that. And it was like, man, that dude went to this school. He grew up here. He never lived that life, and because none of us really do investigative work on each other.
Oh, sure. But did you have a sixth sense about it, or could you?
Yeah, some of us, like put it this way, right? If you've lived that life, you're only going to tell so much of the story because if you're
statute of limitations,
right? You're only gonna tell so much. When someone is way like beyond graphic in that story of the gangster shit, they're popping. They're doing too much because
interesting.
Anyone that's gonna rap a so-called true story and tell you everything. Look, the police listen to these songs now. The FBI listens to these songs now. They all do.
That's how the guy. That's how the guy got popped with the checks coming in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
the guy was rapping about fraud
yep.
from COVID checks coming in, and
right. And they listen and they watch, and it would be stupid of someone to like just tell on themselves on a song.
Right.
And back in the day before you had all the technology that we have in these platforms, you could see when someone was embellishing, because a real gangster ain't gonna sit there and tell on himself. It's just not.
That's a good point. Like he
might give you the scenario and a couple little things, but he ain't gonna be like too descriptive, because then hey, you're out of here.
You snitch.
Well, think
It's February 3rd.
You're snitching on yourself.
Yep.
think about how little you know about your dad.
Right.
He drove a truck. That's all I know.
Rolling Stone, man. I probably got brother. Listen, that I know of. I got 12 brothers and sisters. Half brothers and sisters. That's what we know of.
Right.
I might have brothers and sisters across the country. He was a truck driver.
No, it's a good point. Like whenever they catch a serial killer and they go, he's killed 18 people, like 18 that you know of.
That he's confessed to.
Go ahead and tack another 40 onto that. Be real. Always good to talk to you. Album, Tell You Something. It is available everywhere you listen to music, and the podcast, the Dr. Green Thumb podcast as well, and the YouTube channel, Be Real TV. Always good catching up with you, my friend.
Thank you very much, man. And we got to do this again. And I promise you, next time I will stay longer.
Please, and send that big shoebox of weed over.
I'm going to. Trust me on that. You are going to get that box.
Oh, I trust you. We have a rich history in that. Thanks, Be Real.
How it goes.
Thanks, man. Good to talk to you.
Right on, brother.
Take care.
You guys stay in peace. Have a great day.
Wrote an op-ed piece for the Washington Post saying, I've performed this, and understanding that he could be sued. Nobody in Texas had any thoughts about it. But a former attorney in Arkansas read the piece, newspaper one morning, decided he'll put the law to the test.
It's like Be Real says, you can't rap about abortion.
That's